Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. We are here on our Sunday night show on our unprecedented 1,000th show, I think now, Ken, or something like that. We've done so many of these, I'm losing count at this point in time.
I feel every minute of them.
Mr. Ken DaCosta here. My name is George Lopez. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, also the thumbs up, and the reminder bell for upcoming content. Always reminder, we are simulcast with KGRADB.com, KGRA on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm losing my mind tonight, but thank God we've got a lot to cover, and stay focused with us, guys, because we're probably going to jump to some of your questions in the chat tonight without any delay, though, Ken. Let's move forward with our show. We have something we need to present before we bring our guests on tonight. The Rathmans will be joining us, but what do we have first?
Yeah, we would like to welcome the sponsor of Dead Air and various shows on KGRA, Fuel Up. And we've got a special guest for you in a little bit. But first of all, let's tell you a little bit about the product. So here we go.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake.
All right.
Fuel Up. And let me tell you something.
I got mine right here.
Paranormal, that's perfect. Perfect for paranormal investigators, too, because God, do we keep ungodly hours.
If you are sitting at your computer like we are for hours and hours at a time, hydration is important. And by the way, visit Fuel Up. We're going to put that up there again. fuelup.gg/deadair for their special offer, which includes free shipping. But without further ado, let's bring in the president and CEO of Fuel Up, Mr. Kevin Keekler, to say a few words about the product and tell you a little bit about how this all got started.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Kevin.
And I also want to know during this quick segment here how he got Demi Moore to do the voiceover. So we're going to find out about that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on tonight. I get a lot of comments about Demi Moore doing that. I wish that was the case. I've got to be careful.
Hey, everything's bigger in Texas, right?
There you go. I'm out here in the country in Texas and enjoying a nice dark night out there. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Seriously. You know, how did this get started? I've been in, I played college football. I've been around sports and different products, supplements for 30 years plus. We worked around the aloe vera extract plant. Literally, I've been taking different extracts of it for 30 something years now. And what we did is about 3.5 years ago, you know how many people go to the emergency room thinking that they're having a heart attack and they're simply dehydrated. If you're 2% dehydrated, your cognitive skills are affected. So what we did is I worked on this proprietary part of this formula, 7 years ago, and it all came together about 3.5 years ago. And basically, we have what we honestly feel is the finest cellular hydration drink with that strongest immune enhancing ingredient out there. It's called Biolo, and we added Biolo. It's 7 times stronger than any other extract. And I have to tell you that I'm not making any claims here because we can't, but I just don't typically get sick. I don't take vaccinations, flu shots, any of that stuff. And my immune system is such that, it's let me just say this. One of our doctors who helped formulate this said it the best. Most products out there, what's most important is the ingredients are synergistically blended and they're built to work off each other. And so many people or so many products, just they put ingredients in there and they don't get the full benefit. So if it's kind of like your car, if your engine's running okay, but it needs a tune up, great. If you don't have any oil in the engine, it's not going to run. So if your immune system is pretty good or just marginal, this product will help you tremendously. And the proprietary part of our formula, and George, you mentioned it, talk about it helps you with concentration, with energy, and with focus. We've got race car drivers, pilots, you name it, all types of athletes, normal people, regular weekend warriors. We've got people out here, friends of ours in their mid 60s, 70s, play pickleball all day long. Some will drink 2 or 3 of our wakes. I recommend 1 in the morning and then you play in the rest. But that's what's beautiful about our system. It is a system. If you drink 2 of our products a day, you're going to get what we recommend as the recommended daily allowance of the BioLo. And what's beautiful about our product, it tastes great. It tastes good. Yeah. It's not an energy drink. It's not, full of stuff, junk. It's got 2 grams of sugar. It's good, healthy sugar, and 6 grams of carbs. And our whole system is low cal, low sugar now. And what's beautiful about it is when you drink our product, the wake especially, and you gentlemen have experienced, I believe, about 20, 25 minutes after you drink that wake, you're going to start having this feeling of well-being, alertness. You're focused. It took 4 or 5 strokes off my golf game because I could focus on a little dimple. So anyway, but then what's really beautiful about the product is after you've been on our product for 30 to 45 days, then you will start realizing the benefits of the BioLo. Your hair will grow faster, your nails will grow faster, your skin, you'll again, your overall health and well-being, you'll feel a difference to where I believe we've created an addictive, healthy product so that when you quit taking it, you're going to realize you're not taking it any longer. So that's kind of my quick elevator pitch, if I can say that. But we, we have the feel the difference guarantee, and we challenge people. Try it. You've got nothing to lose. Yes, free shipping. There's all types of specials that y'all will promote. But bottom line is that after a month, if you don't like it or feel the difference, send an empty bag back. We'll give you money back. So you have nothing to lose. And I guarantee you, we're changing people's lives around the world. We've got a ton of subscription customers that get on it, don't want to get off of it. We've got tons of testimonials. When you go on the site, when any of your listeners go on the site, you can click on the button down there and read all about what people feel. So again, I appreciate y'all having me on here tonight. Sorry, I said y'all. We're fixing to hopefully promote it again.
No, don't pander to these Northerners. You we talk the same language. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. George asked me where my cowboy hat was, and I said, well, not tonight. So.
On the other side of the earth there behind you someplace. Hey, listen, I've got it. You should get it. Try it. Delicious. And the last thing I wanted to ask is, or say is, for all you gamers out there, this is extremely important. A product like this where you could just mix it up, and I know you're going to spend your hours, not necessarily my thing, but if it's your thing, this is a great product for that, Kevin.
You know what's interesting, Ken, is that when we originally launched, we launched into the esports market. So yes, definitely. They sit there, they get dehydrated pretty quick,
Yeah,
so, and the other thing is our product, the rest will help you recover because your body heals when you sleep. So it helps you recover, rejuvenate. So when you get up the next day, you feel better. You're not sluggish. And again, it helps you, recover, which is important.
Yeah, without question. The product is called Fuel Up. And Kevin, I cannot thank you enough for being a sponsor and joining us on the show tonight and giving more of an idea for our viewers. And, as the show's momentum continues to build, I think this will be a long-term partnership, and we're so happy to have you join.
No doubt. And I'll come on whenever y'all like, and we'll do a lot of fun things together. But hey, I really do appreciate you having me on. And I'm honored.
I'm
going to learn a lot about this world.
Yep, get that paranormal research in here. We can have you on to talk ghosts and UFOs and Bigfoot and all sorts of good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, just the next time we have you on, there's a good chance that I might be yelling at you when I just did 40 hours of evidence review because Fuel Up kept me going.
There you go.
Appreciate it so much. Kevin, you have yourself a good rest of the weekend, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys. You do the same.
All right, take care of yourself, sir.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Kevin Keekler, ladies and gentlemen, President, CEO of
Fuel Up. Absolutely. And I'll put the banner up there one more time. There we go.
Yeah, take advantage of the special offer, Dead Air/Dead Air. There's some goodies waiting for you there.
Yeah, and when we get a kickback, that will allow us to maybe make conventions out of Dead Air.
I just want my hair to grow faster.
Oh God, we're past that, Ken. We're so past that. Let's move past that and introduce our wonderful guests tonight. We got a lot to cover.
Yeah. Our guests, two favorites of ours, and we're always very, very pleased to have them on the show from time to time because we get to catch up on their work in the paranormal field. And we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. They have provided us with some clips, and I know that all of you love that, and we do too. But they're two of our favorite people. We love talking to them, and we're going to get into a lot tonight. So without further ado, the co-founders of EVPI, Tony and Cherie Rathman. Come on in, folks.
Hey,
how you doing?
Hello, guys.
Welcome back. It's been a minute.
I know.
Yes.
Thanks for having us again.
Yeah, we appreciate it very much.
Not that either of us show-wise, presentation-wise, have been busy. I know you've been very, very busy. From an investigator to a host to a producer, and again, never ever stopping. I don't know how you guys keep it without just sitting there going, all right, I got to step away. That's it.
It can be tricky at times, no doubt about it. But when you love what you do, that helps tremendously.
Hell yeah, absolutely. You guys remember Ken?
Of course.
But thank you guys for joining us tonight. And I know that you had given some pieces of evidence to present tonight. Send it over to Ken. He put it into the system there, and we'll get to that a little bit. But for those viewers who may be joining us for the first time, or since you guys were here last time, give a little information to your background, who you guys are, and how you got in the paranormal field.
Sure. Well, I guess the answer to that question, at least how I got into it, was my wife, Cherie.
Blame me.
She had an interest in the paranormal shows that were coming out at that time. And she always wanted me to watch, and I just couldn't do it. I sat through about 3 minutes of one after her begging for me to watch. And I said, this is television. This isn't real. I don't believe it. And then on a Valentine's Day 13 years ago, she said, I want to do something different. I said, okay, what do you want to do? She said, I want to go ghost hunting. And I was just like, oh my, you're kidding me. Because like I said,
what have I gotten myself into here?
Right?
That was exactly what I was thinking. And, my father was a physics, chemistry instructor, and paranormal just didn't really fall into my thinking pattern. But she wanted to go, and so I took her. I booked a place that had a reputation for being haunted, and we spent the entire weekend there. Bought her a night vision camera, digital recorder, and EMF meter. Figured that was enough, and I figured it would be thrown away probably 6 months after that.
That's a hell of a dowry. They used to give them mules and things like that back in medieval times. Now it's fine. You just buy them an EVP,
Exactly.
get them a night vision camera.
Exactly.
Oh, back then, not only that, he bought me a mic. Like when we were investigating that hotel, so I was holding the mic. I'm like, hello.
I didn't
so
know. She looked like a TV reporter walking around the hotel asking questions, but I didn't know. I mean, I had no clue how EVP worked. Not a clue at all. But we went. She had fun. I played along. but it wasn't until she got the photographs, the videos, the digital recordings home and started going through it. She was calling me over every 2 to 3 minutes. What's in this photo? This wasn't here when I took it. Whose voice is this answering this question? There was nobody there. It was you and I only. This isn't your voice. Who is this? I couldn't answer any of the questions. And I spent months trying to find reasonable and rational explanations for it and couldn't. So finally, I just gave up and said, you know what, let's go back. Let's do it one more time and let's see what happens. Well, we went back to that place over 50 times and just kept getting more and more and more. And that's how basically everything started. And then it just branched out. We'd go to different places in Arizona. We'd go to haunted hotels, other buildings that claim to have a history of it, historical sites. And then we started switching states, Nevada, California. It just kept growing and growing and growing. And that was the beginning of it. And that was 13 years ago. It hasn't stopped for a single day since.
I know. You're a busy man.
Where do you guys find yourselves direction-wise with this field? We've been in it for quite some time. Ken's been in it since Jesus was alive. And
my old partner.
Yeah. So we always look, and I think I ask this question more than Ken does on that, but when you've been doing this for so long, 50 times, I mean, I used to brag about going to Kerr City 18 times, and, that's just an amazing location. But when you're doing this on such an amazing level of investigating, do you ever sit down or in a car ride, the two of you, and go, this is where we have to set our goals to go with next? Have you established that there's spirit contact? No
Absolutely.
Question. Yeah. So what do you do with it at that point in time, at this point in time in your career in the field of study? Where do you go with it next? Is it just still an ensemble collection to present, or do you have an end game with regards to it?
We definitely have an end game, and that end game revolves around the focus of EVP ITC. And that focus, there were many people in history that wanted to communicate with spirits, some that actually even succeeded. And we originally, being so taken in by the information, even when you got a straight EVP, you asked a question, this EVP came out of nowhere. It was that communication that absolutely fascinated us. And 13 years later, that is still our focus, is the communication. And then today, we've even evolved it further to direct radio voice, like the banner behind me. And we'll talk about that tonight. But our goal is to hopefully truly create a method where communication can happen on a two-way communication level with clarity, with spirit. That would be our end goal.
And by that time, we're retiring?
Don't bet on it.
She's always looking out for my future.
For the audience also, give a bit of a description of ITC for those that are watching.
ITC is instrumental trans communication. Basically, what it boils down to is you use a third-party electronic device, which either captures the responses or facilitates the communication for you. So it's a non-interactive piece of equipment. Like in the case of getting a EVP or electronic voice phenomena, you set a recorder down and you ask questions. You don't physically have the ability to manipulate what shows up on the recorder unless you're banging on it, clapping in front of it, making your own noise. But
Right.
You can't control the voices that show up. You just ask a question and then you play it back and review. Instrumental transcommunication is a little bit different because it's a real-time communication, where EVP is capture and review, meaning you capture it on the recorder, you don't hear it until you go back and review what was placed on it when you didn't know that was happening. Where ITC is more of a two-way communication, direct radio voice, even more so, where you literally ask a question, the response comes in, you can ask another question, and it's two-way conversation.
Yeah, I mean, in-house terms, there's a steady recording and staggered recording. And staggered recording is 20-minute burst. You go back, you listen to it also. Do things such as the Ovilus and or spirit boxes fall under that same category?
I guess technically, yes, if you look at it from a perspective of them being electronic devices, of them being third-party devices, yeah, and it's a communicative device. So technically, yeah, it would.
How about a dowsing rod or a Ouija board?
Not electronic, so no.
Okay. Just making that clarification between the two. Yeah, and the technology is constantly evolving. So who's to say what next item's going to come out? One last question, and I'll turn it back over to Ken. Do you think that a particular piece of equipment, I have my spirit box here next to me right now, creates a symbiotic relationship with the investigator? That, some people, they'll bring something out and it works only for them. And do you think that there's something connected to that?
Without a doubt.
You do.
The user becomes part of the connection, becomes part of the communication through the instrument. And there are times, Marcello Bacci is one of them, that the radio he used, if somebody else used it, didn't get any voices at all. He was the instrumental conduit of that machine spitting out what it spit out. So absolutely, yes, that is true.
That's amazing. That is. And I can concur with you, because same thing. I use this spirit box, no problem. If I use an SB7, SB11, nothing. So it really has to be something else that's more ethereal, third party, so to speak, as you talked about. Mr. DaCosta.
Yes, sir. So you kind of answered a question I had, or an example. When we're talking about ITC, it's all under that same umbrella. But when we're talking about using things like white noise, using radio signals, using radio communications, to be clear to everybody out there, it's along the same lines, but it's something different than putting a recorder down and just walking away and answering questions, because of the organic nature of it, as you said, and because of the real-time interaction that you can have. We call it, when we're using recorders and we can hear these things, disembodied voices, and they're very rare. For the most part, we have to go into very, very low frequencies, below 20 hertz, below the upper and lower thresholds of human hearing. So what is it that separates that, where it seems to me that thresholds of human hearing don't come into play when you're doing direct ITC communication like you are?
Well, my theory on that is because the third-party instrument, whether that be a spirit box, whether that be the method of direct radio voice, is that the manipulation of the sound within the broadband white noise is being interpreted on an energy level from spirit through the circuitry and allowing the voice to be audible in the 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz if it is in the natural environment outside of that, or that the spirits are actually putting enough energy into it to raise the vibration and frequency to make it in between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz.
Yeah, because when we're talking about, the standard question is, well, if these entities don't have voice boxes, how do they produce sounds? And we can keep theorizing on that, but the thing that I keep coming back to is that everything exists on a vibrational plane.
Correct.
And if it's possible to manipulate those, because what is sound other than vibration? The only thing that makes words is our lips, tongue, teeth, this is how we form words, or else everything coming out of us is basically
Right. Right.
unless we start using these to form dialect.
Well,
Because I think there are only something like 26 sounds that we can make totally, but because we can manipulate those sounds, those vibrations, because this is what we record.
Correct. Well, the other way to look at it, and the way we've looked at it, is that if you're talking in a 3D environment like Earth, in order to have that voice transmitted, yes, you need to manipulate the sound waves, the air molecules, in order for another human to pick it up. So when we speak, that's what we're doing. Those sound waves are disrupting the molecules in the air, which then hit the ear, disrupt the follicles and the hairs in the ear to allow that to go to the brain and be reinterpreted. But if you're talking about spirits, which are pure energy, you don't need the 3D physical sound version of the sound wave, which is why we always said when doing EVP research, I can pull the mic out of the recorder and still get EVPs. The mic isn't needed because they're not using a sound wave to get that onto the machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's similar to experiments they've done with magnetic tape, going back to the old analog days, where they've literally taken a magnetic tape, not in a cassette recorder, and just left it on a pillow somewhere, play it back, and according to those that have done it on some rare occasions, they actually have a voice imprinted on it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
this goes beyond just, the simple interactions, I think, that we've become conditioned and accustomed to doing in the paranormal field. So to take it that one step further. Now we're going to, I want to get right to a clip right now, and you can kind of explain, I think, a little bit when people see what you're using, the technology you're using, the equipment you're using. And I am going to go with Bocce or Baki. Okay. And do you want to set it up real quick or come back after the clip and break it down?
We've been involved. Everything you're going to hear tonight is what is termed direct radio voice, and it was Marcello Bocci who did this from like 1930 something, 35, 36 to 1986, I think, or 96. I can't remember. But anyway, he used an old vacuum tube radio, and he would tune it to a short wave or long wave frequency, like a world band radio type, not your typical AM or FM. And he would tune it to a station with no radio transmission. And then he'd start asking questions. And he found out that these voices would appear. The radio would almost transform itself to go from a typical standard radio to more of a communication device. And he did this for years. He was tested by scientists. They put him in laboratories that were like Faraday cage, restricting radio waves from entering the radio. Then they started pulling his vacuum tubes. They pulled the first one, still got voices. They pulled the second one, he still got voices. And then they said, if we can pull the third one and you still get voices, I'll eat the vacuum tube. Well, they pulled it. He still got voices. And then he said, no, don't eat that. That's glass. But the point was they couldn't stop it. And the only way they could stop it was to remove Marcello Bocci. When they removed him and somebody else tried to use the radio, no voices.
Yeah. I think we have to bear in mind that there was intent on his part, but the idea of EVP was nothing more than a happy accident.
Correct.
Of someone trying to record bird sounds.
Bird songs. Yep.
And then suddenly someone speaks. So let's get to Bocce right now. And the thing that I will say is that some of this is in clarity, and just like any EVP, we've played clips on the show from a number of people. Some of them are subjective, and some of them you can clearly hear. So, there's always room for interpretation. We all accept that, and, we welcome your thoughts on it. So with that, let's get to the Bocce clip.
spirits, can you please try to communicate with us through this device? Who's watching?
Bachi. That was clear. Do you want us to do the rumbling?
Bachi, are you keeping track of what we're doing?
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
That was outstanding. At the end, phenomenal.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so here's my question. Obviously, you're doing this remotely. Where are you at the time? Are you at home? Are you in your office?
At home in my office.
Okay, so we do not necessarily have to travel to the Lizzie Borden house to speak to Lizzie Borden.
Nope.
But this isn't something that typically you would see from somebody sitting down in the living room and just asking random questions because I want to call on the Queen or something like that. So what are you opening up with this particular method that goes beyond, someone sitting there with a Sony on the coffee table?
Sure. Well, this particular capture was still using white noise in a broadband spectrum. I think it was long wave or short wave. I'm sorry, on this one. And we literally are taking just the white noise, the broadband spectrum of white noise that comes out of a radio where there is no station. And then we filter it. So the computer screen you're seeing in front of you, we are literally denoising, we are filtering the frequencies to zero in on the voices because there are hundreds of thousands. When you're pulling the full broadband, you can't, there's so many of them, it'll blow your mind.
Right.
So we'll filter to the ones that we think are answering or that are coming through louder, and then we'll filter it down to pinpoint those. So literally all we're doing is we're filtering white noise, because everyone always say, because white noise is a constant, meaning every sound from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz is at a constant level. That's why you can't hear any of the individual sounds, because it just creates that static noise as if you were standing, a ways away from an auditorium full of people. If they were all talking at the same level, you wouldn't hear anything anybody's saying. You only hear it because someone's speaking louder or screaming or whatever the case may be. But the voices we're hearing, and again, this is theory, but we believe through stochastic resonance or through an additional energy put through it, that they're raising their voice above the broadband constant and allowing it to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dave Fritz in the chat asked if this is done on a computer.
The white noise is put through the computer. The computer uses a program called VST, which is Virtual Studio Technology. It's basically a music producer's online studio. It gives every option to manipulate sound. But VST doesn't have the ability to create voices. So the voices are still coming from the white noise.
Okay. And to clarify, this isn't your typical scanning AM, FM frequencies up and down the dial.
Not at all.
I think that's an important distinction to make in terms of what you're working at.
Correct. Yes, it's a stationary setting of the dial. It does not scan. There's no forward, reverse scanning. The other nice part about it is there's no echo. There's no reverb. The voices that come through are full tone, crisp, and clear.
Okay. Let's get into another one here where I think this is you and Ron who get kind of slapped around a little bit here.
If the one you're going to play also has Bocce's name in it. Let me explain that one. So when I received the one, when Cherie and I think Dylan might have been with us too, received the one we just played, 2 or 3 days later, Ron sent me, because Ron and Lourdes is who we learned direct radio voice from, and they've been doing this for quite a few years. But we received that message, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to tell him about it. And then he sent me this clip, and he said, you got to hear this. So, and I don't even think I had told Ron yet that we had got Bocce respond to us, or that who we think is Bocce. Now, do we know that for sure? No, we don't, but it kind of almost sounds like his voice, even though he's speaking English. Yeah. But the clip you're about to play is what Ron got, and he sent this to me, but it was within a 2 or 3 day time period. Okay. So this is one he got.
So this is DRV, Ron, Tony, and Bocce.
Yep.
All right, I was going to play the idiot one, but we've already set this up. So. We'll skip ahead. So about a couple of minutes long. Check this out, gang.
Hey, Tony's my friend. I would agree. Can you say Entity Voices?
Okay, my kudos to Ron for the techno music there. That's good. So because this is a concentrated, integrated thing, you are not picking up any stray radio or microwave signals on this.
Well, that was always a concern of mine, because let's face it, whether you're doing a spirit box and scanning through stations, or whether it's sitting on a blank station, it's still a radio. It has the ability to receive signals. It has the abilities to encode them and spit out whatever vocals may be attached. But what I can tell you is that now, and not that clip's still using white noise through a radio, but there's no radio station. So you could leave the radio on for 24 hours and not have a single thing come through but white noise. Mm-hmm. But that was always a kickback. There's a radio still involved. It has the ability to pick up. But
it has the components of a radio.
Correct. It has the components to pick up a radio wave, whether that be from AM, FM, long wave, short wave, a baby monitor, walkie-talkies, any signal that's floating that it's got the ability to decode. But I can tell you today, we no longer use a radio.
Okay. All right, another important distinction. I just want to get to this quick clip right now, and
Okay.
got a question for you on the other side.
Yeah. Okay, I don't understand where this is coming from.
Is there an echo now?
No. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, there's no echo now. Is your sound coming out more than one place there?
No.
Idiots.
I heard it.
Quick question about the software. Yeah, don't take it personally, guys.
Well, we were doing a stupid mistake, and they literally, they do have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And some of the things we've heard them say are just like some human being in, and we're complaining about the echo, and they're like idiots.
I would imagine as more people pass from this earth who worked in IT, you're probably going to get a lot more of that stuff.
You're probably correct.
Move, get out of the way. I'll take care of that. Now, what you're using, is this proprietary software, or are these just different sound programs that you've gone ahead and purchased and all kind of, put this all together?
Yeah, VST is a I don't know. I think that one is a purchase software, but basically it's the background. It allows you to run mods, and then you go get the mods that you want to use, whether that be denoisers, whether that be filtration, whether that be voice enhancement, whether it be whatever. But it's still an ongoing research process for us. Everyone always says, well, what model are you using? We've switched it so many times. It switches from day to day because we're constantly trying to upgrade it, and one change to one will affect all the others. And it's not like a spirit box that you turn the thing on and you just start asking questions. I mean, this requires manipulation. It's a method, not a box. So it requires much more attention. But when you hit that special sweet spot, the responses just are mind-blowing.
Yeah. So when you open up these doors, so to speak, we'll just call them doors, there's nothing visual going on. This is strictly a conversation that you would be having with someone on a old-time rotary telephone.
Correct.
Where you're connecting with them. They're not peeking into your, because I know you've probably asked the question many times, can you see us?
Yep.
That's pretty standard. But again, another distinction to make between, opening up a portal. We hear that word ad nauseum to the point that I don't even know what it means anymore, But this is just all vocal communication.
It is. It's all vocal.
Okay, so how do you think, by dialing into that wavelength, because everything runs in waves, so what are you using in terms of a microphone to breach that gap to them so they can hear you?
Well, we actually asked that question. How are you hearing us?
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I think it's in one of the clips I sent you. The answer is there. Okay. But the bottom line is that if they are spirits and they consist of energy, a human is just embodied in this body suit, and we're restricted to our senses to interpret the world we live in. But the spirit is still inside that body. So the ability to transmit thoughts through energy, brain waves, and I hate to even use the word brain, because if consciousness can exist and think and intelligently interact without the actual brain, then it's conscious energy that's being transmitted, and that is how they told us they're hearing us.
Yeah. The important part, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Tony agree with me. We're all basically meat suits. And it's brains firing and all our synapses that really make up what you want to call, if you want to refer to it as the soul, so be it. I want to play one more clip before I bring George in here as we, come up on the break. very simple response. He can hear us. So let's take a listen.
Yes, you're connecting.
Okay, so obviously they're asking the same question. And this is something that I've come to realize, and working so much with Cody and Satori, who you know,
Right.
that these answers come through. In their case, they can, when they make contact, see what we're doing. It's like,
Absolutely.
What am I doing right now? Well, you're standing here, and so is next to you. And the thing that I've come to realize is that when you make that type of communication, there is literally a community on the other side. They talk about kids running around making noise, just like they did.
Right.
And they are asking the same questions of us. Can he see us? Obviously, talking in the third person there because, they're not addressing you. But can they see us? So there's that sense of wonderment on another dimensional plane too, where, someone is reaching across to them, especially somebody who, didn't pass away in the 20th century and isn't aware of a recorder and a microphone, because these are all very familiar objects. So there's a sense of wonderment and probably more than a little confusion on the other side. It's like, how can I hear these living people?
Right. Or they may not even know who they're hearing, and we're the ghost to them. I mean,
yeah, scary proposition.
It is.
Bring George back in here. We got just about 7 minutes or so, or a little bit more than that before we go to break. So get his thoughts on some of this.
Yeah, I wasn't going to open Pandora's box about the kids, about Cody and Satori. We've been so amazed by the consistency of the contact and the other epiphanies that have occurred, particularly about reading our thoughts. What you presented to us tonight just helped to again validate that they could show up anywhere at any time at the speed of a thought, doing sessions right there at home. And, you could call in any spirit that you would even reference from many of the different haunted locations you've been to, but to say, okay, we're going to reach out to a Hans Holzer or an Ed Warren. We're going to see if these things work as far as that kind of communication. So I applaud you for that. And that's what I consider in this field, not necessarily just on a case, but in this field, compounding. You're compounding the evidence. You got a team, Cody and Satori, trying something and finding discoveries. And then here we go, Tony and Cherie doing the same thing, whether it was before, after, whether there was some sort of communication between all of you guys, and the discovery validates it once again. So that's an important point. This is what I was talking about with moving forward with this. Now, when you guys are doing this communication, this style of communication, and I know going back to when I was doing the spirit box sessions, do you guys employ what I had to absolutely insist upon, which was redundant response and trigger words? I don't know if you would have me explain to you this before, but you're getting this communication and trying to make sense back and forth of whether or not it's just random conversation that you may be intercepting from the other side, or whether or not these responses are coming back to you. But redundant response and trigger words help to validate that. Could you say the word chrysanthemums, when I use all the time, multiple times, so that we know that we're communicating? Or can you say a specific word, Frankenstein, so that we know? So we need trigger words with the responses. We'll come back from that. Have you employed any of that so far?
Absolutely. I use aardvark as my trigger word, and the other trigger word I'll use is my full name, Anthony Rathman. And yes, I have that recorded many times, getting it back, but that's what tells me that the connection is there. When I do a key word like that, it facilitates the fact, I apologize, Cherie had to walk away. We had the dogs going crazy, and she has to check on the food.
Understood.
So, but absolutely, we've done the trigger words. And like I said, it facilitates the conversation to know that I'm getting an intelligent response, because I asked something that from a random point of it showing up would be off the charts for aardvark to show up singly when I ask for it. That allows the communication to open and allows us to go into the other hundreds of thousands of millions of questions we always want answers to.
Absolutely. Now, something that struck me in one of the recordings that you played, and you had also used this term also, human. You know, on the recording it said he's a human, and then you mentioned the word human. Now, I understand we can probably look at it and saying, well, what we're talking about is human versus spirit. But is the potential in this on these intercepts multidimensional?
Without a doubt.
Potential ET connection?
Absolutely.
And how much of that have you guys explored during this time? I mean, have you asked just that direct question? Are you from another dimension? And I don't even know if whether or not they can explain it back or they understand that question. How would you or how have you approached that?
Real simply, we usually say, am I speaking with spirit, extraterrestrial, or multidimensional? And yeah, I think there's a clip tonight. You'll hear me say that. And then the answer will usually come through. Spirit is usually the first one and the most common of them. But have we had extraterrestrial? We have.
Yeah.
And I can tell you the voice sounds completely different.
What's its consistency for that kind of communication? Because I think that is a critical breakthrough to be able to have that dialogue going on. So how consistent has it been?
It hasn't been real consistent, but it lasted for about 72 hours. And then I made modifications to the system, and I haven't been able to get it back since.
Oh, my goodness. And off the same equipment that you're using right now?
Correct. Different modification of the way the programs are laid out, but same programs.
So it's almost where, and we talked about this, we've been talking about this for years, Tony, as you know, and we talk about conditions. When somebody catches, as an example, a residual haunt, what was the moon cycle? What was the temperature? You know, the people that were present. So these are things that have to be considered when you had that connection. Was it a specific date? Was it a specific group of people? The procedures in which you were handling this that might be able to recover that type of communication once again. So is that something that's always on your radar?
Always on my radar. In fact, the communication came from someone who called themselves Colin. And Colin was the only word I could make out, because when they would speak, I would get this burst of energy into the system and it would literally shut it down. I mean, my computer's never done that. This was the only time it would happen. I'd have to restart everything and restart the conversation. Then they would speak again and everything would freeze. So I don't know if it was them trying to test how to interact best with the equipment to not overpower it or shut it down. It was the strangest thing. But then his final words to me, I got so frustrated. And Cherie was with me, and I'm sorry she stepped away, but Cherie was with me, and she said, ask them if they can manipulate it to where they need it. And so I did. I literally said, okay, my computer's yours. You have my permission. Do whatever you have to do to allow me to understand what you're saying.
Right.
And all of a sudden, gauges that I would never touch had changed. And Cherie's like, look. So we were fascinated at that. But then what he told me was, he said, power amulet. And I'm, as a circuitry guy, I'm thinking, what the heck is that?
Right.
You know, I'm thinking, is that some kind of capacitor? Does the computer not have enough power? Well, you know, doing every bit of research I could find, it had nothing to do with electronics. It was this. What I'm wearing.
Oh, there you go.
What exactly is that, sir?
This is a crystal inside of a hemonite ring. Quartz crystal obviously has the ability both to retain and emit energy.
Okay.
And believe it or not, when I built it and I hand carved it, I have hand carved the crystal. Cherie put it together to me in a necklace. And believe it or not, we were getting these bursts. The bursts minimized. They didn't completely go away, but they minimized.
And I don't mean this to be a wise guy, but I can see two people on the other side, with one talking to Talon saying, you got to remember you're talking to apes here. And okay, right. It's meant to be funny, but you think about it a little bit, you're talking about evolution beyond, maybe millions of years. We're just like infants, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
No, true.
And it goes towards my suspicion / theory, when these craft, if it's not subterranean aerial phenomenon, but it's actually spatial aerial phenomenon, they're coming from other worlds, that it's not traveling at incredible speeds through space, that there's actually doorways. They've figured out how to just do, from point A to point B, Einstein-Rosen bridge. And I wonder whether or not that same thing goes with communication, that they could be, billions of light years away, but they can do a real time instantly with people on this planet and then laugh at us for being meat bags, So,
right.
Very possible.
Yeah.
And the next question is do they even need to jump that time and space in order to communicate? I mean, in my impression, based off of the research we've done, they don't need to be. Ron ran DRV 40 feet underground in a cave where every spirit box went to die 4 or 5 feet into the cave because they couldn't get a radio reception. The DRV was the only device at the bottom that could still receive voices. So it's not constrained. It's not like a radio wave that's going to bounce off a rock or not be able to penetrate soil. Right. So how that happens, do I have that answer? No, but is that a light particle? Is that some sort of atom we're not aware of? I don't know.
All right, let's go to break real quick here, guys. Hopefully Cherie will return. The dogs have not killed her. So we're going to be back on the other side of the break. You're watching Dead or Alive on the Dead or Full Spectrum channel. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Get ready for the most out-of-this-world weekend Roswell has ever seen. UFO Expo 2023, March 10th through the 12th at the Roswell Convention Center. 3 days packed with 40 different events, including 10 different film screens, producers, celebrity personalities, and renowned speakers, and all just a few blocks from the UFO Museum and Research Center. The 3-day pass includes VIP parties, mixer tents, speakers, live music, film festival, cosplay events, and more. Get tickets and more info at ufoxpo.com. UFO Expo 2023, March 10th through the 12th at the Roswell Convention Center.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
And welcome back to the second hour of our show. Very special guest tonight, the Rathmans, which if you ever get a TV show going, that you can't ask for a better name. You might have to add an I in there, the Rathmans, but Tony and Cherie. And just a real quick, we just talked earlier the show with one of our sponsors, and from a product placement perspective, I have to say something right now. It's just one of those messages. It's important. Okay. They only put these out once a year. I got mine. Quick story. It's at the grocery store yesterday, and the Girl Scouts were out there, and I'm like, where have you been all year? Well, we only do this during the month of February. Okay. I'd like to get 2 boxes of the Thin Mints, please. I'm going to go in shopping. I'll come out, and then I'll pay for it then. They were setting up. I came back out, had to be maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe at best shopping. A woman came and bought 30 boxes of Thin Mints.
A hoarder.
It's not toilet paper.
Oh,
Why? And she, I completely forgot, And then
to resell them to you for $10.
Yeah, exactly. Double your price. What a racket. So I'm probably on eBay or whatever else like that, because she knows the same thing. It'll be a year before they get in front of stores again. So anybody who knows anybody that's connected with the Girl Scouts of America,
please,
thank you for your service, and put the cookies out more than just once a year with 30 days. I appreciate it.
I don't have anything that profound to go into. Just a couple of things. First of all, if you haven't subscribed to Dead Air, why the heck not?
Yeah.
Hit the notification bell. We've got all sorts of programs.
Right down there. It's right there.
There it is.
Look at
to
it.
Dead Air.
No.
And also, if it strikes you, we're not in the habit of doing this. Hey, hit the $ in chat if you want to help us to help you. Because we're givers.
Yeah.
The other thing, speaking of new programming, our show next week will be teasing a new pre-recorded program that we're going to have on Dead Air Full Spectrum coming up in the weeks ahead.
This is going to be awesome.
And we're going to have the star of that show. And it's being filmed in Los Angeles.
Woohoo!
And I don't want to give you too much to go on, but think of crystal balls, broomsticks.
Oh,
yeah. I think that I think I've said enough.
Bigfoot? No.
I've been told by legal to neither confirm nor deny that rumor.
Understood. Of course. Yeah. Actually, there's going to be quite a few people joining us next Sunday, correct?
That is correct. We are going to have another one of our Brady Bunch screens. I know we want to bring back the Rathmans, and we have a number of questions that maybe we should get into before we hit some more clips. I think I've got 3 left. So with that, George.
Yeah, bring them back on board.
All right.
Oh, she's been attacked by the dogs, hasn't she, Tony?
She's been taken off. Darn it.
I would love to get to these other clips because I know we also have several questions from our audience, Ken. So why don't we move forward?
With clips or questions?
Clips first.
Clips first. Okay. This is a little bit longer, and it's entitled Treasure. And Tony, if you want to set it up or discuss on the backside, I leave it to you.
I'll set it up because this one's really interesting because, you know, I built spirit boxes and I used them for over a decade. And anytime using a spirit box, you're trying to get spirits to respond. You're asking every question in the book that may fit to their when they were alive, to their period in history, trying to give them some piece of information. But it is you that is acting as the proponent of the conversation. This was DRV, and what was fascinating about this to me was that I turned it on and they were asking me questions. They were asking for my help.
Love it. Love it. So let's go ahead and play that clip and we'll talk about it a little bit on the backside.
Hey, Rathman. It's Rathman. Thank you. Yes, it is. All right. What else can you say for me? Do you like being able to speak with me through DRV? Yes, good. Do you have a message for someone? Depends. What does it depend on? Who do you have a message for? Is there someone you'd like me to deliver a message to? Do you have to think? Patience. Okay. I can be patient. Do you have any message for me? Yes, what's my message? Special. Can you tell me what the message is? I heard you say Tony. Yes, I'm listening. It's a favor? Sure. You guys have been good to me. I'll be good to you. What do you need? What can I help with? Treasure. Did you say treasure? What favor can I do for you? I can shut the hell up. Yes. But I don't want to. I like speaking to you guys.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. The first thing that comes to my mind is, are you tapping into conversations between other people who are not cognizant of your presence, or is it a combination? I think I mentioned you heard your name in there, but who do you think, I'm going to ask you to go out on a limb.
Sure.
Are they communicating with each other? Are they having two different conversations? Is one talking to you and one isn't? Or is this something else?
Well, I can only give you my theory and impression because I honestly don't have the answer to that question. But to me, it was a group of 5 or 6. I'm going to say spirits in this case. But they did something. And the fact of talking about a treasure, maybe they did something bad. Maybe they did something they regret. And half of them were trying to maybe make amends for what they did, have the treasure found. I don't know. But it seemed like the other half of the group was like, they're lying to you. Don't listen to them. You're trying to cover it up. That was my initial impression of what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, timelines don't necessarily bisect or intersect either. So,
correct.
You know, it's not like somebody is giving you a date or something like that. So, I mean, we know once a thought is complete, it goes into the ether and it becomes a physical thing.
Right.
It exists out there. So whether these people are having a conversation, like you say, because they have some remorse or regrets, or wherever they are, they're still trying to hide something,
right.
You know, or conceal something. It's sort of like, at times, it's got to be like just dropping a recorder inside of a crowded room and then walking away. And then whatever you get, you get.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a possibility. The two things that struck me odd in that little snippet was the fact that they said he's human and he's an option. That's what really stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things I want to just kind of circle back for a minute, because, you know, in the sessions we've done with Cody and Satori, there's something that came through one time where it was, oh God, what was it? Just the beginning. And the first time I heard it was at a theater where they reached out to a friend of George's that he had lost some years ago. And they spelled out just the beginning. And then I heard it again at the Conjuring House no more than a week ago. And they said that it's a message that comes through quite often.
Wow.
And when we played a clip earlier, and I heard maybe your name, but I heard the word "he's evolving." And those two things kind of correlated to me, where, you know, people say the date of their death, their anniversary date, is just the beginning. And then when somebody comes through and says, well, they're evolving, it triggers a lot of thoughts in my mind. So
Agreed.
I'd kind of like to get your take on that.
Well, my take on it when I heard it, because I think I've been asked that same question about the evolving probably somewhere between 50 and 100 times. But is the evolving, are they referring to spiritually, mentally, open-mindedness, being allowed to accept what I'm getting as communication and evolving to a form where I'm going to be able to open further communication? Is the evolving the way that we started doing EVP, then we moved to spirit boxes, now we're using direct radio voice? Is that the evolution they're referring to? I mean, I've probably looked at it from every different angle, but the fact of the matter is that probably every aspect of both me, my life, and our progression of spirit communication is evolving. So it could mean any, all, or, I don't know.
Sure. I want to get into the last couple of clips we have, are a couple of minutes apiece. So I'm going to try to squeeze a couple of these questions in here. This is from Carrie. She is a Facebook. And just a reminder, if you are watching us on Facebook, there's a link there that you can click on StreamYard to allow us to see your name. It'll just take a couple of seconds. You're not signing up for anything. Don't worry. But Carrie's question is, can spirits respond in the language they're asked a question in? Have you found that?
Yeah, we noticed when we were investigating in the Philippines at the Diplomat Hotel, we received messages in English, Tagalog, Latin, and Japanese. Now, luckily, Cherie spoke 3 of those 4. The only one we could not decipher was Latin. But we do know that depending on what language you speak, like if it had just been me, I only would have gotten English responses. I would have not gotten languages I couldn't understand. It was only, we got the other 2 only because Cherie knows them and speaks them.
Do you find the door swings the other way, that you have to ask questions in a certain dialect?
If you facilitate questions in the language that was known by the person at the time of their life that you're looking to communicate with, absolutely, it does help facilitate conversation.
Okay, so when in Rome.
Right.
Dave Fritz, this is going back to the communication, I believe, when you were in your office. Dave says, this is interesting. Do you have any paranormal activity in the place that these voices are being recorded, other than the voice communications? I would suggest the voice communications are probably not paranormal in nature. To a degree, I mean, we can flesh that out, but if you're using this type of technology, it's not like someone moving a candle. But that's another question for another time. But to David's point, have there been paranormal activity in the place these voices have been?
Well, our house, absolutely there has. But I mean, we've been doing this, and not only do we do ITC, we investigate on a regular basis, a couple times a month. We do private home investigations. So have we pulled things back into the house with us? Absolutely, we have. But the amount of voices that come through the direct radio voice, which are both, when we ask a question, both to timing and relevance and intelligently answered, they're not all coming from this house. That's way too many to be all in this house.
Yeah, it should be pointed out, though, I think, you do this type of thing in places where there have been reports of paranormal
Oh, absolutely.
activity as well. But it's not a necessity.
Nope.
Okay, so I love it. And finally, this time around, Aaron Bush, could it be a time slip situation? Do we think those happen way more often than we realize?
It absolutely could be. I mean, the point of investigating and doing research within the paranormal is that we by far don't have the answers. We don't have the variables about what needs to happen for them to cause the interaction. We know so little about how it works that all we can do is get the little pieces of pictures and try to see which ones maybe fit together to give us a path of a theory. That literally is the best we can do.
Okay. Let's go to another clip here. This is a clip about concerning white noise filtration.
Okay, so now this was the first communication we did where we removed the radio. The radio, everything forward, the radio is no longer part of the equation. The way this happened was I had a sleep box that would play different sounds, ocean sounds. Well, it had a white noise thing on it. And so I just did a quick test on it, and it actually worked. I had asked a question. I got the response through it. But the funny part is that it kept repeating, and I couldn't figure out why. And then it occurred to me it's because it's not live generated white noise. It was a recorded 3-second thing of white noise that would loop. Well, so when I got my answer looped every 3 seconds. And so the voice just kept repeating. And that's when I said, okay, if they can use that, we're going to move to a white noise generator, which has no radio receiving capabilities at all. It's nothing more than an electronic component that creates the frequency at a constant between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz.
Okay.
So no radio signal whatsoever. And the clip you're about to play is what we got.
All right, let's check it out.
Hey, Anthony Rathman. Tony, I heard Tony. I'm assuming our spirit lives on. Yes. How long are we in the other life? Do we have the choice to come back and live again here on Earth? Yes. Is it easy to communicate with this direct radio voice method? Richie, I heard someone say Richie. Yes, okay. Will you share information with me, please? Spirits, I don't mean to test you with boring questions, but can you tell me my wife's name? Can you show me how to make this so I can hear you clearer? Am I speaking with spirit? How many spirits are with me right now? 10? I hear quite a few voices. Is Becky an angel?
Wow, kind of frisky.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, a lot of people will say, well, when you're doing communication like that, it could be your own thoughts being transmitted. Is that a possibility? Absolutely it is. But none of those at that time were and the answers just kept showing up, just kept coming. It was, and again, no radio anymore. There is no radio. Radio is gone.
Yeah. Well, these things sometimes can be generational. And for me, I always look at language. And I've had this conversation with you when I hear contractions. I'm like, okay, that's from this time on. Because they use things like can't, couldn't, wouldn't in the 1800s, mid 1800s. Anything before that, It's like one of the statements was, "Are you horny?" It wasn't, "Art thou Randy?" or something like that.
Right. It was a modern day statement. Right.
Exactly. So when you're tapping in there and you open that door, that metaphorical door we're speaking of, you can cross generations, I think, with someone who passed within a year or someone who passed within the last 200.
Agreed.
So to kind of discern all those things, it can be a challenge sometimes, because obviously you don't have a face to put with a name, but you nonetheless, you can still glean information to some degree from the responses.
Yep.
Okay, so let me see. This is from Carrie again, who asked, have you ever tried writing a word down and asking them to say it?
Absolutely.
So,
we sure have, and it does work.
Okay, so do you think there is some type of thing where it's telepathic, or your intent, your concentration, however it is that you write a word down and just focus on it and focus on it and focus on it?
Well, it could be one of two things. Ron and Lourdes did an experiment at the Ritz Theater where one person and one person only wrote a word on a piece of paper. They took it downstairs to a bird cage that was hanging. They put it in the bird cage.
Mm-hmm.
No one else in the room knew what the word said. When the question was asked to direct radio voice, they got the answer. But if you think about it, if our mind or our consciousness sends out energy that they can pick up on, how hard would it be if they said, hey, what's written on the piece of paper, and the guy who wrote the word is thinking it,
right?
They should be able to pick that up. Right. But we asked Bocce, or who we thought was Bocce, can you see us? He clearly said yes. We've picked colors, saying, what color's my shirt, and gotten the right color. So, yeah.
Okay, so it's also always an interesting experiment. When you start doing this and think outside the box a little bit, like how can we up the ante a little? Mary Beth, I wonder if there's any AI communication going on.
Well,
she can let us know. I don't know if that means communication with another intelligence, or I'm not sure. Hey, Cody.
Hey, Cody.
So AI communication, Tony.
Yeah, I would need further definition about what she's referring to.
Yeah.
Any of the software programs that are running only clarify sound. They have no capability of creating wording or communication. So I guess I would further need to understand what Ken said, if you're talking about an artificial intelligence communicating through the machine, or exactly what was meant by that.
Yeah. I don't know if, it's developed to that point yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and play this last clip. And Tony, this is just entitled Energy of the Mind.
Oh, this is the answer to the question I asked about how they're hearing. And there's some other stuff in there as well. So yeah, go ahead and play it.
All right, let's hear what they have to say.
Can you say Tony? Did you just say Rathman? Yep. So you know who I am. Can I know who you are? Yes, sir. Thank you. Who am I speaking to? How many spirits are with me right now? Let's say 8. How many spirits are with me right now? A lot? Where are you at right now? How do you hear me speak? How do you hear me when I speak to you? Did you say they're dead? Yes. So you were once alive like me. Yes. So are you on this planet as well? All right, if I'm really speaking to people who had passed away from this planet, can you say hello, spirits? Sorry, you like being called spirits. Yep, okay.
Okay. All right. So typically when you begin a session, is it like when you're doing an investigation and everyone introduces themselves?
Cherie and I definitely do that when we're not in the house. That one was recorded right here in the house. But yes.
Okay, so there's a situation now where they're being specific about your name. And have you ever been in a place where you've done none of that? Not introduced yourself and just, opened up a line of communication and you get your name said?
Absolutely, we have. Matter of fact, the last time we were at the Globe County Jail, I asked them to say a key word, and they said my first and last name immediately, and then asked me how my kids were.
Okay. So we understand that when you go into a location, you can build up a rapport and a relationship with the physical surroundings, the building itself, and whoever occupies it at that time. But I guess what I'm getting to is the idea where you're a first timer in a location and you haven't established that relationship yet, but yet the messages get somewhat personal to you in terms of like naming you or Cherie or Ron or Lords or whoever's with you as a first timer in that location where you haven't even had a chance to, get comfortable in your chairs.
Absolutely, we have. Matter of fact, when we went out to New Jersey and did a 4-mansion tour in 4 days with Ron and Lourdes, we had never stepped foot in any of those locations before. Yet when we'd flip on a spirit box, which we were using at that time, hey, Tony, hey, Cherie. So the connection you make isn't so much with a building or the grounds. It's with the spirits. And we noticed years ago, probably 8-10 years ago, because we always did introduce ourselves. I'm Tony. This is Cherie. We're just here to communicate with you. We'd go places and we'd get that response coming through an EVP or a spirit box. Hey, Tony. Hey, Cherie. the Rathmans. We'd hear that over and over and over. So we believe that relationship is with spirits, not necessarily location.
Right. And there have been instances maybe where someone comes through that's connected to you or your family or, yourselves personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cherie, actually, we tried to reach out to her mother who passed away about a year and a half ago. And first time on DRV, we heard what we believe was her mother, but she said, "I love you," right to Cherie.
Okay. That's outstanding. You got to love those. And the last question I have in queue is from Ron. Is spirit research a form of summoning a specific spirit?
Well, I would think Bocce, because we asked questions about his work, would be about as far as we've taken that. Our research is more in the communication, clarifying the communication, than reaching out to a specific spirit. Can it be done or not? I'm sure it probably could. It's just not something we focus on.
Okay, and I want to bring George back in when we head into the home stretch here. Question for me, just a random question. Do you have that place that you haven't visited yet, you'd love to go, that you'd love to use this technique in that particular place? Maybe there's not one, maybe there's three.
There's multiple, but the top one is definitely the Conjuring House. It's been brought up a couple of times now. Hopefully it will occur, but that is definitely one. The other one that I'm hoping to get back to try to use it is the Queen Mary. And the third one that just piques my interest to see what would happen is either Waverly Hills or the ranch.
Skinwalker?
Skinwalker, thank you.
Good luck with all of those. Conjuring House we may be able to help you out with.
Yeah, you'll probably get there before me.
I know that's been on your list for a while now, George, and it's been on mine too.
Yeah, I have a question. I think we pretty much covered it before, but it's still something that kind of plagues me now. Back in the old Dead Air Blog Talk days, we had a wonderful psychic medium out of Arizona. Her name was Nancy Matz, and she used this phrase when we did Spirit Box sessions. And one year we did what we called the Summer of Spirit Box, and we were doing Saturday nights. We do a Spirit Box session. The following Saturday we would do the review. And one of the things that Nancy, who would be there on the phone with us live during the session, would term all that noise as monkey brain, that you're hearing so much coming across those transmissions that it's like you're almost overwhelmed. Right. And it was almost like having war flashbacks as I was listening to the audio, going, my God, I remember those days having to sift through that. It is the ultimate goal, is what you were saying maybe about 10 minutes ago, is to get more of a linear communication and not this jumble that there's other things going on. As if, again, somebody had put in chat, you're at a cocktail party, and while you might be having a conversation with this person, the room is so loud, you're hearing the other conversations. There's the loud, obnoxious one over here. There's the one that's cursing because they've had too many martinis, and it's all kind of covering over each other while you're doing the transmission. But the ultimate goal, and do you know anybody in this field right now that is close to achieving that linear conversation where it's just one person that's right there, or somebody or equipment that will be able to emphasize the one closest to the mic, so to speak? You know what I mean?
Well, the only other two people are our paranormal counterparts that we know of that even do this in North America, and that's Ron and Lourdes. And those, obviously being our paranormal counterparts, are who we work with. But one thing I probably should have done when I sent the clips is numbered them, because of the order, they weren't in succession, meaning that when we figured out ways to remove some of the background voices, those weren't the last played. And so the order, so I think the last one played was probably before we even started to research how to get rid of so many voices.
Yeah, it's the evolution of those things.
Correct.
Right. Sure.
Is it then the target for your team and the people that you know to stick with this software, stick with this form of communication, or are you still consistently looking outside of the box and saying, you know, well, this might be the newest software that might come in. It might be an app for all we know, but looking always to say, because that's our expectation is somewhere along the way. You know, let's go. What one of the hottest items is out there right now, Tony, Chat GPT, and let's say in that AI that we say, okay, can we communicate through this with spirit? Now that usually I've gotten responses back with, well, I'm just an artificial intelligence and I don't have the capacity to, but somewhere along the way, that leap may occur.
We don't know what will happen, when it'll happen, or how it'll happen. Technology moves so fast, yes, and the variables needed to make the communication happen are still unknown to us. So we never shut our eyes. We always keep them open to anything and everything that's being tossed around.
Evolve.
This just happens to be the closest we can get to real-time, full sentence communication, which was a frustration for me in 10 years of Spirit Box, because you'd get a couple of words at best, and you wouldn't get an instant reply either. And part of that, we believe, is because it's scanning radio stations and they can only truly communicate within the white noise.
Right, right. Or, you know, as the Spirit said, you're evolving. We're all evolving, and it may not be from a physiology standpoint, but in the technology department, that this field is constantly evolving, and we need to keep our eyes and ears open for what may be next on the horizon.
Well, think of how many people are doing this now, trying to reach across.
Yeah.
How many requests they get, or in some case demands, depending on your approach, your methods. But so many people are reaching out right now through various means, whether it's psychically, technologically, whatever the case may be. That's probably unparalleled in our history, you know, going back to the Fox sisters and the rapping and the tapping and the spiritualist movement. But since, you know, the early 2000s, over the last 20 years, I mean, anybody on the other side is inundated by people at multiple times. At any given time, there are probably 100,000 people trying to do EVPs or spirit boxes or whatever the case may be. So,
yeah, but in defense of the dead, there's more of them than us.
Right.
Yeah, there's plenty to talk to, but a lot of times
that was the response to when Ron played his clip, and the response came through. We must deal with people like you. I mean, almost an annoyance maybe from that particular response.
Yeah,
or
sure.
You know, I don't know. That's how I took it. That was the tonality, but maybe it was something different. But that brings up a good point to when I heard that response.
Well, especially specific places. You know, we all know what they are. You know, the iconic haunts, whether it's Conjuring House, Lizzie Borden House, Queen Mary, whatever. I mean, there's an inundation of this, which is why a lot of times we'll go in a place and there's a lot of people, and we make it clear that I know there's a lot of people in here vying for your attention tonight. But you know, to hell with them. Pay attention to us here in the dining room. You know, but it's hard. You know, it's difficult, and people say that we hear what we want to hear, but it really takes a trained ear to pick these things out. And you can train yourself. It's like what George was talking about, a room full of people, and it's called the cocktail party effect.
Right.
Where you get this buzz, and then suddenly you hear a word that's familiar. You could hear your name. And somehow or another, out of all this din, out of all this buzz, you hear Tony, and like somehow you picked that out. So when we're listening back to a lot of these things, it's something that you can train yourself to do, but it doesn't happen overnight. And
No.
to be able to pick out and say that's probably nothing and be objective, that's even harder to do.
It is. And you know, the real forward-looking purpose of the research now is to get rid of as much of that background chatter as possible, to get as much clarity in the voice. But I mean, I've heard hundreds of thousands of EVPs that aren't even close to that. And so to get that consistently is really nice. But all of the forward research now is to clearing, and getting the pronunciation to the point where you could play it for anybody and they'd be like, okay, I heard this, and it'd be exactly what the next 100 people would hear and say.
Right.
Well, go ahead, Ken. I saw we got questions.
Yeah, I just have one quick one from Carrie. I thought it was good. Is there a plan to train new people on how to use this in their investigations? I'm not sure if one of you folks was doing something like that or was planning to. So,
well, there definitely is a plan to do that, because obviously the more people that use it, the more it can be evaluated, the more the responses that come back can be validated. We're just not at the level where we want to be yet to say, okay, try this, because we don't go more than 3-4 days before we change something, because we're constantly communicating back and forth going, okay, are you having this problem? Or, you know, what about this? So once we get there, absolutely, we will let it out and let everybody run with it.
Right.
What defines you, Tony Rathman, I can honestly say, as there was that one audio about a treasure, and you did what any investigator would do is try to rationalize what this is. And you said, well, maybe it's this, and maybe it's that, and maybe it's this. But what defines a good investigator is the last words out of that particular sentence, which is, I don't know. And we don't. Everything that we're doing right now is to seek those answers.
Right.
You know, whereas on one of the shows, they would say, you know, could it be that this, da. But they're just, again, feeding into a storyline without any evidence, any facts whatsoever. So let's go with hypotheticals. But a true investigator is still going to say, I don't know. That's what we're trying to find out. So I commend you on that.
That's the case. I say that more than I probably like to, because that's the only answer I have is I don't know how that works. I don't know how this is happening. But the only thing I do know is that it is happening. And then the rest of it is our job to find out what's going on, or at least try.
Do you ever take this, and I don't know how much of this you do in terms of residences and things like that, but has that scenario come up?
It'll come up the first time we're going to take it to one next weekend. We got a call today for a private home, and it's a younger lady. She has a couple of very young kids, and she's freaking out about stuff that's occurring. So I can definitely let you know how it goes, but yes, we're taking it, and I'm going to see what occurs.
Do you plan on including her, or is this something you'd rather do away from her? Obviously the kids, but her as well.
Yeah, the kids I don't want to have around, but she definitely needs to be included, because we know nothing about it yet outside of what she's relayed. We don't know if it's the home, the land, her. So having her there is a necessity to facilitating what's going on.
Okay.
Quick answer to a question that I have is, with the evidence of what you've produced right there in your home, is that the next evolution or part of it? I mean, people go to these places such as the Conjuring House for the ambiance, the atmosphere, whatever you want to consider. But to be able to say, such as this residential case, you're in your house, I'm speaking to the spirits that inhabit such and such an address. that are interacting with such and such a residential client. Can you pop up? And if that response does tend to occur at home, is that the next evolution of what we're doing here in this field?
We are at the tip of the iceberg, and everything you said, absolutely, that might be achievable, that might be expandable. But again, I'm going to go back to what you were saying before. I don't know where we're at on that tip. I don't know how far down it goes. I don't know what the capabilities are. So the only way we can learn is to test and then retest based off of what we learned from the test prior. Could that be possible? Absolutely, it could. Do I know that for a fact? No, I don't. But that's why there's researchers. That's why we do this.
Similar to a piece of paper and the writing on it, where Ken could be at the Conjuring House and say, Ken, I want you to do something on the first floor, and then I'm going to ask the spirits what it is that you did. Helps to validate that those spirits are traveling.
Exactly.
We had that experience, as Ken talked about, with one of my team members who passed, and we're there with Cody and Satori. It was amazing. So I think, again, there's a lot of discovery ahead, and the tip of the iceberg definitely is the best way to put that. What's coming up for you guys here in 2023? We're just kicking it off. Places you wanted to go, but where are you already scheduled for?
Well, the thing we have coming up, first of all, is a bunch of Paracons. We're doing the Globe Paracon. We're doing the this year we're doing the Orange County Paracon. We have a bunch of other ones that are still up in the air. We are putting together a documentary on DRV right now. We've also been asked to possibly do another one based off of a similar subject matter. There's a couple of other opportunities for some other engagements I can't really speak of yet. But then we've got a whole list of properties that on our list for 2023 to go and check out, which we haven't been to.
Wow.
Have you moved away from other techniques, or is this just something you incorporate with the typical recorders, video cameras, whatever it is that you use?
EVPs I will still do and use, typical recorder. Spirit boxes I have pretty much set down because the night and day difference.
Evolution.
Right. It can't match it. It just can't.
Oh. We are pretty much all out of time here, and I can't thank you and Cherie enough for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you on board, and Ken and I both wish you the greatest of success moving forward. And as those discoveries do occur, please keep us in the loop.
You bet I will, and thank you for having Cherie on for a little while and then letting me finish it out. I do appreciate it very much.
Not at all, buddy. You have yourself a great night, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Good night,
man. Bye-bye.
All right, Tony. Hey, just tell everybody to stay tuned for the Tracy Austin Show. She was in chat for a little while tonight, and coming up right after us.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.